So, when you tend to think about horror games or spooky things in general, Nintendo probably isn't a company that's very high on your list or on your list at all. Now, yes, they have dabbled in some spooky stuff. Luigi's Mansion, of course. You know, there's ghosts, there's spirits. Those are spooky things and what they sort of are connotations to death and stuff like that. So, okay. Obviously, Nintendo has done stuff with Fatal Frame as well. They own a couple of the Fatal Frame games. But when it comes to actually making a horror game, well, Nintendo's not really doing that. But is that changing? Because Nintendo scared the hell out of people today. Earlier today, a trailer went up on the Nintendo YouTube channel, and everyone is kind of scratching their heads about what this is. Some connections were potentially made. It's now being revealed that those connections are incorrect. So we're going to try to figure out what the hell this is and maybe what it could potentially be because, well, we really have not much to go on at all right now. So here's the trailer in question. This went up on Nintendo's YouTube account about 8 hours ago. Emio. Emio? We'll say Emio. I feel like that is the proper pronunciation of it. And this is a 15-second trailer, so not a whole lot to go on here, but let's take a look at it together. Starts out with the Switch logo, and this is kind of unsettling. You know, like, obviously this is looking at like Japanese horror. You know, if you ever have like watched Japanese horror or played Japanese horror games, this definitely sort of falls onto those principles and ideas, at least in my opinion. When you look at like the trench coat or whatever, like to me, this screams like Japanese businessman. And, you know, the bag over the head, it's creepy. If you listen to the audio, you can hear like some weird, almost like radio static going on. You have this creepy individual who people are assuming is Emio. Emio. I like Emio. We're going with Emio. You can see here the tag is who is Emio? And that's really all you got to go on. So watching this little snippet here, we see, you know, a hand. We see his hand. We see a little bloom effect there as well. You know, just some unsettling stuff. I see a hand. No wedding ring. Emio is a bachelor, so I could relate to that. You know, a generally creepy vibe, and then we get some kanji here. I believe it's called kanji. I don't know. Okay, this is where I base it on. In WWF No Mercy, if you wanted to have a T-shirt that had like lettering on it, it was called the kanji shirt, and like it had three Japanese symbols on it, and that was kind of like the NWO. It looked kind of like the NWO, so that's what you'd use. And this actually says, "Who is Emio?" So that's it. This is all we have to go on with this. Some weird dude in a trench coat, and people are losing their minds over this. Now, initially, this was actually tied into a company that, well, I'll just go ahead and say a Bloober Team. You know, people who did the Blair Witch Project. They did that Medium game as well. Allegedly, they were going to be doing this for Nintendo. People got very concerned. Obviously, they're working on Silent Hill 2. The jury is still out with that. There were some forum posts, but it does seem like, although they are working on something for the Switch, obviously the Blair Witch game did indeed come to the Nintendo Switch. And, you know, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. It's just, you know, not a great horror game, but it's solid enough. I would just like to see them like get something in their lineup that's like a definitive game. And I feel like Silent Hill 2 could potentially be that for them. Let's not get too crazy with the modern audiences thing, though. I'm watching you on that. But it has been revealed that this is not that project that they are working on for the Switch family of systems. People are running with that as well. They've been saying Switch family for a very long time now. The Lite, the OLED, the standard, whatever. So now we're back to kind of square one with this. And when you look at Nintendo's history, obviously horror stuff isn't really high on their pedigree, if they're at all. So you got to kind of look at Japanese horror games, I feel. You know, you got to look at games like Fatal Frame that we talked about a little bit before. You have to look at things like, you know, Siren. And even crappy ones. There were some crappy ones on the Wii. Remember The Calling on the Wii? I love horror games, so I play a lot of these. But usually Japanese horror games are very different than Western horror games. They have different motifs, they have different sorts of stories that they try to tell, and they don't necessarily rely on things like gore as much as Western games do. Western games definitely have, a large smattering and splattering of blood and guts and stuff like that. So what is this game going to be? This trailer to me really sort of says psychological horror. The audio in it, the individual in the trench coat, the smile on the brown paper bag, the weird cut-ups, the close-up shots, the strange audio, the kind of, jerky motion, that definitely leads to me to be psychological horror. But really, I think this is freaking brilliant by Nintendo. When was the last time Nintendo did something weird? And I'm not even necessarily talking about scary. I'm just talking about weird, as in something that wasn't a traditional rollout of a game or rollout of a character or rollout of anything. Usually it's very cut and dry, oh, here's the new trailer for this game, surprise, and that works, that's fine. But surprises are a great thing in life, and I can't remember when the last time Nintendo did something so cryptic. This reminds me, of back in the day, You Are Not Red E sort of stuff that Sony had. And people were like, what does that mean? Enos lives and stuff like that. Marketing can be a very powerful tool because you could tell a story and you could create hype and buzz based on a 15-second trailer. But with this 15-second trailer, you have so many questions. You get little clues here and there. You could kind of formulate an idea, but you're still wondering. Like the hashtag says, who is Emio? What is Emio? What is this game? Is it a game? Is it a character? Is it the new president of Nintendo? Is it the Switch 2? I'm surprised somebody hasn't tried to connect that to the Switch 2. Oh, well, Emio is actually the Switch 2. I'm going to have to guess that it is a Japanese style horror game that Nintendo is probably working with someone on. I don't know, maybe they will surprise us. Obviously, there is a younger generation of people working at Nintendo, but I'm excited for this, man. I think it's really cool. It's creepy, and it goes against the normal Nintendo grain. And that's something that I feel like, you got the kids, man. You got the families already. Let's try to do some stuff. It doesn't have to be all the time, but once in a while that kind of caters to a different audience, an audience that is a bit older, an audience that's been following you since they were kids, because there's still a lot of people there. Just look around YouTube at some of the old men such as myself that occasionally talk about Nintendo, because as you are all well aware, I'm not a Nintendo YouTuber. But let me know in the comments section down below, who is Emio? Maybe I'm Emio. And as always, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that thumbs up, like the video. That's the exact same thing. Hit subscribe if you are new, because we're on the road to 500,000 subscribers. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.